sponsors who have made it possible, and to the city, HEB, the City of San Antonio, the Economic Development Department, and Wells Fargo, and to our supporters who, as you can see, are listed. Now, you're not here, and thank you again, and congratulations, and I'm looking forward to seeing great things.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Now, you're not here to listen to me. You're here about kind of curving that fear of cyber security. We're joined by Ed Pope. He's the CEO. He's a IT executive, innovation leader, digital transformist. And it is such a pleasure to bring him on because he has 25 years of strategic operational marketing, as you can see, and technical experience. Now, he has a proven leadership with a track record of driving success, change, especially during a time of industry and technological disruptions. And he has helped thousands of businesses successfully adopt new technology. But what you don't know about him, and I want you to know, is that Ed invests tremendous amount of time speaking around the United States to startups and small business owners through the organizations like Operation Hope, SBA, regional MSDCs, and other organizations. He firmly believes that business ownership is a solid route for people for financial independence. Now, he loves helping others create opportunity through entrepreneurship. And in return, he feels like he learns from other people he assists. Now, Mr. Pope currently serves as a board member with several nonprofits and is an avid church member. Now, in all of this, he finds and enjoys fishing, hiking, and when possible, traveling the world with his beautiful wife and his children. But you're not here to listen to me. You're here to listen to Mr. Pope, who has built his company that was established in 2015. And here it is, 2020. Mr. Pope, help me grow my mind. Tell me how I can be safer in this new age.
Juanita, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for joining us.
I'm glad I can be here. Thank you so much.
So tell me about your business, because we want to hear those tips for small businesses.
Sure. Well, we started DigitalGenetix 6 years ago, and when we started it, it was really to try to help a lot of the smaller organizations, nonprofits, and churches really manage the IT component of their business. And an amazing thing took place as we started growing and talking with our customers. We learned that there was a tremendous need, not just for small businesses, but for mid-size and large enterprise organizations as well. So we've been very, very fortunate to connect with a lot of organizations. So I'm very grateful for that. And let me say, I'm very grateful for the Maestro Entrepreneur Center reaching out to me and asking us to do this to do this presentation on today.
Oh, well, we're certainly honored because not only are you a small business owner, but you're also a veteran from the Army. You're also a veteran. Hoorah. Well, okay, so I'm a Marine and I say hoorah. Okay, so we're pretty close in the same environment, but I don't want to hold you up. Share with us those cybersecurity tips for small businesses, because that is really why our audience is here. So let's get ready and roll.
All right, thank you so much. And to everyone out there, thank you for joining this webinar. I think the first step, we're already doing it, is basically making cybersecurity top of mind. You have to have a legitimate conversation about the threat that exists. For small businesses, the cost of a data breach can be devastating. The average cyber attack costs a small business roughly about $34,604. It takes an average of about 191 days for a small business to even become aware of a cyber attack. And companies that are attacked once are usually hit again. So just having a conversation on today, a high-level dialogue about cybersecurity, for your small business. And then I'll add this little caveat. A lot of the things that we talk about should actually be employed even at your home, even in your personal lives. So I think that's the first step.
So what's the agenda for this topic? Where are you going to direct us?
Well, we're having an introduction right now. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the cybersecurity risks that exist, common cyber threats, how to protect your business, how to recover from a cyber attack. We're going to conclude, basically have a Q&A, and there's some additional resources that we included in this presentation to help small businesses continue their vigilance against cybersecurity attacks.
Now, tell me, on the cybersecurity risks, what are some of the things that people kind of overlook sometimes?
Well, there are really 5 major areas that organizations have to look at. And the question you have to ask yourself is, what's putting your business at risk? The biggest risks right now for small businesses are, number 1, employee negligence, inadequate protection, employee mobility, failing to back up data, and poor cybersecurity policies. And so when you take a look at it, number 1, employee negligence, employees are the weak link in your business defenses. And a lot of hackers know it. In fact, I don't know if you saw just a couple of days ago that there was a Russian organization that was indicted here in the States for going after a company's employee and offering them resources to hack the company that they work for. Hackers usually target your employees to gain access to your computer network. The second one is inadequate protection. Putting antivirus software on your computers isn't enough. To keep your business safe from today's cyber threats, it requires a layer of protection across your entire network, from your endpoint employees to your servers, and especially your email gateway. The third major risk is employee mobility. Do you have to bring your own device policy? Mobile devices are vulnerable to hackers, and employees working on the road, in the coffee shops, or at home, especially now with COVID-19, may be connecting to unsecured networks that can infect your business network. Number 4, failing to back up data. Without regular backups, you can't get up and run quickly after an attack. If you're hit with ransomware, you'll have no choice but to pay the ransom or lose your data. And finally, the fifth major cybersecurity risk is, do you have a workplace cybersecurity policy? Without guidelines, employees may unwittingly expose your business to cyber threats.
Now, all of these, I'm aware of some of these, but one of the things, like you touch base on COVID-19, is that, that mobility. Unfortunately, not everyone has internet at home. So that employee mobility, does that also cover like computers, business phones, things of that nature that we have to be concerned with?
Absolutely. And they sell, we're going to talk about that a little bit at the end of the presentation. There are some really affordable, low-cost platforms that are out there to help you manage that. I would say right off the top of my head and it's one of the things that we really talk to our customers about, is getting a private VPN to operate from, and it gives you a level of protection against outside threats. Because most people, when they go to a coffee shop or they plug into the airport Wi-Fi, they're just logging in without any layer of protection, and hackers thrive off of that. And finally, let me say this too, and we're going to talk about a lot of things in this webinar, but there is no foolproof methodology to do that. And this is really more or less best practices to protect yourself.
Now, touching down on poor cybersecurity policies, and maybe I'm speaking ahead, but what are the most common risks that we're faced with and maybe not be aware of? Or am I jumping ahead? Oh,
Well,
there it is.
there it is right there. Yeah, it's right there. The most common cyber threats or ransomware really comes at the top. And last year, there was an 80% increase in ransomware attacks on small businesses and believe it or not, a lot of the larger governmental entities as well. The hackers, they get in and they don't really want your data so much, but they're holding your data hostage. So you have to pay that ransom, and then if you don't pay it, then you lose that data.
And that's the reason for the backing up of all your data.
Right,
How
right.
how often should you back up your data?
You know, it really depends on the volume of data that you have, but let me give you this tip. I don't know how many of your listeners are use the little portable hard drives that you can purchase from Best Buy, Walmart. They run anywhere between about $50 to $100. I actually have some of our smaller to mid-sized customers that actually use that, and they'll back up the data, and they keep that data in a secure location just in case some of the cloud, because cloud backups also are open to being hacked as well. So it's just one of the things that you can do to keep that data there. And so if your data is hijacked, you can come back and say, well, you know, I'm not going to pay that ransomware because guess what? I backed up the data to X time, and you can just upload your information into a new device and start from there.
So if ransomware is #1 on the hit list for threats, what's #2?
Number two, and this is obvious, business email. And wow, and the business email component, it takes on really two pieces. One, there are hackers that are looking to get your logon information from some of the soft spots in the old Microsoft Office 365, and I'll address that first one. And the second one is when you have an email and it's a phishing scheme that comes in where people will create an email. It looks like it's coming from a trusted source or it's coming internally, and it's not. So you have to be careful with that. Now, I will say this: Microsoft, over the last 12 months, has done a tremendous job in reinforcing their security. As a matter of fact, they're not even called Microsoft Office anymore, and so it's a complete shift. They're looking for the productivity, but they also have an intense emphasis on security. So I would definitely look at that. And there's some steps we're going to talk about at the end of this presentation that talks about dealing with some of the email problems that you might have had.
Okay, so we've got the first one, which is ransomware, business email attacks. There's got to be a third one.
The third one is cryptocurrency, and again, here again, they don't really want your data. What they want to do is go in and get into your computer and mine cryptocurrency. And these attacks, they're looking to hijack your computers, your smartphones, tablets, your routers, printers, and any IoT device, Internet of Things device. Any device with computing capabilities they can leverage to go in and steal cryptocurrency.
Right. Okay, so we know that we can be attacked in different ways, but how do we protect our business? How do I keep my business safe?
Okay. You have two areas of defense against cyber threats. It's you and your employees, your users, and your devices. And you have to follow best practices for both of them to keep your business safe.
And those best practices, is that like for the user, or is it for the equipment?
It's for both. It's for both, because if you're going to protect your equipment, let's talk about on the user side first. Passwords are really an apex of issues for users. And I don't know how many of you all have had issues just with your passwords or over the past 6-7 months. Isn't it crazy? Where you've used a password before, and then you'll get a notification that your password has been compromised. And so you're like, oh my goodness, I've used this password for all of my logins. I think I got one the other day saying that my password for Best Buy, believe it or not, had been potentially compromised. And so it listed all of the websites that I use that user ID and password combination. So number one is you to your best of your ability, use a different password for the different sites. Number two, change your passwords frequently, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually. And then I think the third thing is utilize long, complex passwords. There was a chart here not too long ago, and unfortunately I wasn't allowed to share it in this presentation, but it talked about how long it takes a hacker to come into and use your user ID and figure out your passcode. And the most difficult passcode to figure out is one that incorporates letters, numbers, and symbols. Make sure you avoid using first names, birth dates, telephone numbers, and social security numbers. The second part of protecting your passwords is use password managers like Trend Micro, so it's a great password manager, LastPass, and First Password. Finally, don't store your passwords on Post-it notes or little stickies and tape on your device, because I know years ago we used to do that, and it was somewhat safe. And then even in your notebooks, make sure that you don't put your passcodes in your notebooks, because I've had this happen, believe it or not. About 1.5 years ago, I had a couple of passcodes to some of my personal stuff in a binder, and guess what happened, Juanita? I left it. And I panicked. Thankfully, we didn't have a breach. They sent me, they ended up overnighting my notebook to me. And oh man, I was changing passwords for about 7 or 8 sites. So make sure that you don't write it down somewhere. And so now I'm getting some questions here, and I'm definitely going to ask the question. And that's a great question, talking about some of the biometric scans, and we're going to address that at the end of the presentation. So please keep the questions coming. That's great. That's a great question.
Absolutely. Now I can relate to that, because in this last month I've had to change my passwords 3 different times. So absolutely. Wow. But still, we're talking about protecting, best practice for security. And we talked about our emails. So what about our email security? What are the things that we need to?
Well, and the email, really, in my opinion, is really where you have so much control, because some of the emails that they're phishing for information, they're trying to get you to log in so they can install malware or ransomware on your system. Some of it is kind of obvious to look for. One of the clues that you can see in a fraudulent email is if there are obvious grammar and spelling mistakes. Often hackers outside of the US don't speak the English language in the same way. And so if it doesn't follow a flow, then okay, you probably need to go in and check. And how you check that is real simple. You take your mouse and you go over the sent, or who sent it to you, the sender, and generally it'll actually bring up the email. And so this is where they get a lot of people, because sometimes we're rushing, we're going so fast in life, Juanita, that we don't take our time to look at it. I think there was one instance where the link showed that it was bankofamerica.com, but when you hovered over the link, it actually said Bank of America, and America was spelled ANERICA. And when they clicked on that link, it brought you to a site that looked very similar to Bank of America. And guess what? Users did? They put in their user ID and their password to their bank account. And so all of a sudden, these hackers will do that. And you know how long it takes them to go in and take your information and drain your account? It takes them less than 60 seconds. Less than 60 seconds.
Wow.
And the same can be said for your credit card. If your credit card number is taken, what they do is it's a common piece. They'll take it and they'll launch it out all over the country to some of the people that are working with them. And within a 5-minute time frame, they will max out your credit card at a lot of different stores throughout North America. So make sure that you examine those emails, those links before you click on them and give your information. Examine the email address. And then also, if you see something that's odd, something that doesn't sound like the sender, pick up the phone and call the sender. I remember I do business with a gentleman in Oklahoma City, and I got an email, and he said that he had forgotten, he couldn't authenticate his code to get into his website. And so I said, okay, because generally I don't handle that, so it was an odd question. So I'm looking at it, I said, wait a second, he wouldn't ask me that question. I got my cell phone and I called him direct and I said, hey, I got your email. He said, what email? So the email asking for your code. He said, I haven't sent you an email. He said, I've been outside. So make sure if something looks fishy, if it looks wrong, reach out to the sender and make sure that is there. Now, the last part is train your people, train yourself and your people on some of these tips. Make sure you create a policy that even prohibits employees from opening up outside email attachments. Create a policy that any supplier that sends you an attachment, they send it to you in a cloud-based, give you a cloud-based option, so that way it really lowers the chances that it's some sort of malware that you're going to download. And if that doesn't work, require that the attachments are password protected, and any others that aren't password protected can be viewed as being suspicious and should be deleted. And then if neither of the above work, have employees contact the supplier to verify that the attachment is legitimate before opening it. And then on the regular training piece, there's some free tools, and we included that in our resource, the last page of our resources, that you can simulate phishing attacks and educate your employees about cybersecurity. They have Trend Micro, Fish Insight, CoFence, and then Know Before.
Right. Well, see, here's the other thing too, is what I've noticed is, especially with my phone, especially when I'm doing my emails on my phone, that I've put in a 2 authentication process. Is that something that you would recommend?
Absolutely, absolutely. You absolutely want to go in and have a 2-factor authentication take place. And I'll say this to you. Sometimes it's painful because, again, we're so accustomed to moving fast. And I know when you're logging in, sometimes there is a log out from Google or Microsoft or whatever company is employing that. Make sure that you take your time and you do that, because it's protecting you.
Right. So there's my question, because I mean, I know, especially with kids, right? And my kids actually caught on to this. So it's nice to be able to see that's what you're going to touch on. So there's 2-factor authentication to log into sites. but this also can be done on your phone, right? Because
Right.
we do so much business on our phones. But what are some
Absolutely.
other things that we can do?
Okay. Some of the other things that you can do, uh, trust your links. Make sure that you're looking at the links, even in your text messaging and your emails, and make sure that they come from people that you trust or you know. If there's an unsolicited text message, odds are there's something else going on that you really don't want to be a part of. So I would delete that. The other thing is, you have to be careful, is about cloud-based file sharing. And we do that at a personal level, and we do that in our business. Um,
Right.
Cloud-based file sharing can put your business at risk. Make sure you're very specific about what you share on sites like Dropbox, Google Drive, Box, OneDrive, so forth and so on. I wouldn't share
Okay.
sensitive customer information or sensitive information about myself in those sites here. As a matter of fact, we utilize a couple of those for our customers. We help manage Dropbox, and we help manage a lot of the Google Drives. And what we tell them is make sure you separate your personal information to its own Google Drive, its own Dropbox, and your business information on its own. And then you password protect the folders that are out there. And so the only way really for anybody to get into it is if they have the access information to get in there. You're not emailing those links out to the customers, but it's very dangerous. And I think sometimes, I think we covered that statistic, Juanita, earlier. Sometimes you've been hacked and you don't even know you've been hacked until it's too late.
Yeah. You know what? That's very true, because I actually just addressed it on Monday, where I had a charge on my account with that GoDaddy,
Mhm.
and now I have to reach out to them. Fortunately, I'm with USAA, and they took care of it for me. But now I also have to reach out to the vendor and let them know that potentially even their account could have been breached. But we're talking about the businesses, right? Because that could have easily gone into my business accounts. But when
Right.
you're out of the office, what else can we do?
Okay. Well, number one, when you're outside of the office, you want to exercise caution using public Wi-Fi, especially when accessing bank accounts. Uh, when they give you the option, and a lot of banks do it now, to give you the option to establish two-factor authentication for that extra layer of security, then take it. And then you also want to make sure that you restrict remote access into your network. And what I mean is, and this has happened actually a couple of months ago to actually a large organization in San Antonio reached out. I got a call from the president late one night, and he said, Ed, we have a problem, and I wouldn't ask this of you. Can you come in remote into our system? I said, yeah, sure. So we got set up remote in. And what someone did, someone had reached out to one of the employees and said they were there to just do general maintenance. And the employee clicked the link, and it gave remote access to a hacker. And the hacker went in and tried to steal sensitive data. The really cool thing was we had put in a couple of layers of protection to that sensitive information, so their customers weren't impacted. But make sure you put some tremendous restrictions on remote access, or if they're asking for remote access, they said, hey, we need to get into your computer. Make sure it's from a trusted organization. And then the last part, again, utilize a VPN network, and they have VPN networks for commercial grade VPNs. We actually offer that and sell that. And then they have personal level VPNs where you can utilize that. And I tell you, when I travel, if I can't connect to my VPN, it will not get done on that website. I even have my own MiFi, my own mobile Wi-Fi to access the internet, because some of the networks I can't trust. So make sure that you have a contingency plan in place to protect your information, whether it be personal or business. Hey, Juanita, I think I see the red icon on your mute button.
Okay. For our audience, can you elaborate what VPN is?
Yeah, it's a virtual private network that you establish, and what it does is it hides your IP addresses, your MAC addresses from the users. As a matter of fact, that's unique that you would ask that question. I had a situation. I was traveling. I was at the hotel and I was working, and so their network went down. It went down, and so I went downstairs to talk to the front desk to see what was going on. And so they were talking, and when you know how it is, they said, "Hey, you know how to do this?" I said, "Yeah. Let me go see." And so it was something that wasn't happening on their end. I ended up calling their corporate headquarters, and the gentleman was very nice. I trusted the organization, but he asked me for my MAC address. And I said, absolutely not. Because your MAC address is the unique identifier for your device. So make sure that that you utilize a VPN to mask your MAC address, mask your IP address. And the only thing, I guess, the only side effect of that sometimes is like when you go to some of the search engines, like sometimes I'll reroute out of the country and then come back in depending on the level of security I need. It'll actually show that you're in Sweden. I think I used that the other day. I routed everything through Sweden while I was working on something because they had faster speeds and a lot better data integrity. And when my browser came up to Bing, everything was in Swedish. So make sure you're aware of that. That happens. You say, oh, I have my VPN. Let me change the setting and route it through Dallas or route it through Chicago or some other area in North America. So yeah, but that's what VPN is.
Well, that kind of gave me chills because, we talk about security. We talk about taking those extra measures. And for a small business owner, I'm very blessed because I have a great business partner that always take that into consideration. But for those of us who are just starting out, and I'm looking here, what are some of the things that we can do for the computers and the servers? And one of the first thing is choose a business grade antivirus security solution. I mean, we always think we get the right one, but how can you identify what's the best suited for you?
Well, and that's a great question.
Your business.
It really depends on what your needs are as an end user and the number of users you have. I mean, I've seen some operate off of the old McAfee or whatnot, but if you're dealing with very sensitive information and you have employees, let's say, what happens if you have an issue with that employee, right? You need to be able to deploy security remotely. And so that's when you want to look at leaving a consumer grade product and moving to a business grade antivirus product so it can be centrally managed. And then you can monitor all of the devices on your network. You can restrict user access to certain files, certain places in your network, and then enforce security policies. And what that basically means is we actually sell several different commercial grade antivirus products, and we actually offer a product with any of the systems that you purchase from us, where we actually can go in and detect malware before you even are notified about it, and then we send an automated warning to you. We send an automated warning to that IT department or that owner, and let them know that there is a system that's been compromised. And then what we do is we actually take that data, we lock it down that's on that particular device, and then we establish all sorts of, we establish AI to go in and correct the problem, upload patches, deal with deal with any software download that maybe hasn't occurred, upgrade that hasn't occurred on that system. So really, that's the difference. The other part is it's not just a matter of antivirus anymore. You need kind of a multiple point solution that's there that gives you endpoint, web security, and email protection all in one. As a matter of fact, I even recommend for like onesie twosie, maybe 1, 2, 3 end users. There's an antivirus that we recommend that does all of it. It actually cleans your system, and it goes in and establishes updates and patches, make sure that the drivers are updated, so forth and so on. So that gives you a much more complete protection versus just dealing with antivirus, a virus coming into your system. The other thing is, okay, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No. And I hate interrupting you because, I'm looking at this. You're talking about implementing multi-layers, isolating your payment system, restricting both physical and digital, requiring two-factor authentication. But this one, the last one, and I guess going into it, that committing to it, doing it regularly. Small businesses are very small groups, but I think, I don't know, for me, and again, I'm very fortunate because I have a great business partner that she does this regularly. With this one, last one, committed to updating regularly, would you say that that's probably one of the most emphasized need to make sure that you're safeguarded? Monitoring, constant monitoring?
You do. I think now you have to have that in place, and it's not just a matter of malware, but think about all of the different software platforms that are on your phone, that are on your computer. To manage all of the updates that take place, you need something that's going to do that on a regular basis, and then really just notify you when something is not right. So yeah, absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing. I know when Microsoft began to phase out one of their Windows platforms, it was because they could not offer the right level of protection with that particular operating system. But a lot of people got caught off guard because, let's face it, when you're in small business, you're on a budget. And so they didn't think it was important. And what happened is when they discontinued support for that product and they got hacked, they ended up losing so much more. So you really have to have that constant monitoring in place to let you know, hey, you have a vulnerability, it's being corrected or been corrected, and you can move forward. And if something becomes obsolete, you need your system to be able to tell you this is obsolete. So that's a great question, Juanita.
So the other thing too is, you talked about people creating emails. Is there a way to prevent it, or is that when you really have to take really good, pay attention to those email addresses? Because one of our audience members, Teresa, says, can you prevent an email address from being created with your company name and having your picture added? Is that possible, or is it something that falls on you to be more attention to detail?
You know what? It isn't possible because let me say, every week there's something new that's out there, and I don't know, even with your phone, I don't know, have you ever gotten a text message from yourself and you didn't send that, and you're trying to figure out how in the world did they mimic my telephone number? So the answer is no. There's no foolproof method out there that gives you 100% security. So with everything else, it's just like, digital reflects real life, right? And you have to be vigilant in everything that you do. So yeah, you just really have to go in and physically look at it. And even then, what they'll do is they'll use an alias, Teresa, they'll use an alias to look like your business name, But if you put your mouse on it, I'm fairly certain that it was not your business information, but they'll put it on
Right.
there in the user in the sender information to make it look like it was you.
Now, I know that since we're on computers and servers, Dulce is asking about with Zoom, like right now. I've been on a Zoom where porn has come up or the screen has gone black, you know, and people often ask, does that mean something? And Dulce is asking, does it mean something? Or do you need to get it in to get it worked on?
You know, and that's a great question. The problem is if you take it in to get it worked on, the costs can be exorbitant, but you do need to have it checked out. And that's why we recommend really kind of getting an all-in-one solution or getting with a company that provides constant monitoring of your system. So that way, if you had that question, you can just shoot off an email or get on the website chat or make a telephone call. And what would happen is in my company, we would actually respond to it. Now, we pride ourselves in being proactive and getting ahead of it. So if there's something going on in your system that's not secure, then I would tell you 90% of the time, you're going to get some notification from us that we corrected this, or you need to be careful about this. But if it's really bad and you can't log on and it's doing this continuously, then yeah, definitely take it in. Definitely take it in.
Now, we've talked about computers and the servers. Are the same thing that you implemented about your mobile devices, like your tablets and your phone? Are those the same things we have to take into consideration?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you on your mobile devices, make sure that you enforce your passwords or your passcodes. And I think the question came in earlier from, if I get this straight, from someone talking about the biometric identification. Yeah, absolutely. Take advantage of your biometric identification technology if you can, because it is more secure than using a password. Install security software on your mobile devices, and a lot of people don't do that. Go in and download that. And what's really incredible is that a lot of the antivirus organizations are making platforms for your mobile devices. Require two-factor authentication to log into your devices, and then make sure those pesky updates. And we keep talking about that, Juanita.
Yes,
Those pesky updates.
absolutely.
Make sure at the end of the day, when you get that notification, that you allow that to happen. And I know sometimes it's a major inconvenience because I always this is kind of funny. I always hate it when they do the updates because they usually change how you navigate the phone. But no, there's probably some other things that are going on, some other risks that they aren't really talking about that they're trying to prevent from taking place on your phone as well. So absolutely make sure that you update your devices.
Right. Well, and here's the other thing too is, now we're talking about the mobile devices, but what about our routers and the network that we connect these devices to?
Right. And I'm going to tell you, the Wi-Fi routers and your network connected devices is so critical to not just your security, but to your speeds that operate in your business and in your home. I don't know how many people have tried to watch a Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime movie and it starts lagging. And they're calling the cable company. But a lot of that has to deal with your Wi-Fi router. And it is so important that when you get it, you just don't hook it up. Go through the manual, actually read the manual, and it'll tell you, first of all, how to change your device default username and password, because hackers can see the type of device that you're using, and then they'll go in and pull up the manual on that device and look at the default information, and they can log in on the web. They don't even have to log in directly into your router. They can actually log in from any standard browser and change things and start using some of your bandwidth. We had a customer, one of the colleges in North Carolina, Juanita, and they were like, their telecom bill before they came over with us was just tremendous. I think they were paying out, man, like $500,000, $600,000 a month. And when we went in there to start doing our assessment. We discovered that in the student dorms, they were losing hundreds of gigabytes a month to another country, where they were bypassing them and stealing their bandwidth, if you can believe that. When we caught it, we changed it up. It was coming through their router. And so, of course, it was a commercial grade router, but they had that information. They never changed it out. And we ended up saving them right out of the gate almost $200,000. Isn't that crazy? So make sure you go in. I can believe that. It's crazy, right? And so you have to make sure you change your username and password. Also disable remote management, and that's the big part, because people can access your router without being there. Restrict access to specific addresses so that only the people who need to connect to it. And if you have children at home, and I know we work in a work from home environment, and we have our children now, they're going to school virtually. Children are the worst offenders because what happens, they're doing other things that you have no idea of what's going on. So what I did in my home, I actually set up a separate Wi-Fi network for our kids. So that way, when I'm zooming online, or I'm using Teams, I don't have the same lag time. It's a great best practice. And then enable encryption using Wi-Fi protected access to and you'll see it as WPA2. That's the strongest level of protection right now. Require two-factor authentication to log into your device. And then the last thing I'm going to say, update. Make sure you update your software and your firmware regularly. And I know you have that router that you've been using for 3 years, but I'll tell you, it's betraying you. It is selling you out. Make sure you go to Walmart or Best Buy and get another router, something that's up to date.
You know what? As soon as I finish these webinars, thank you for the recommendation, because no wonder my stuff is slow. Absolutely. Yes. Now, this is great. We figured out how to safeguard everything. But what about when we do get hacked? What do we do? How? Because I mean, okay, there we go. How do we recover? Because instantly thinking about this, fear struck, because my bank accounts, my passwords, all my presentations, my business plan. How do we respond to that?
Well, okay, I think step one, you have to respond to it. And the first way is real simple. Turn off your computer, unplug it, disconnect your internet connection, shut down your router until you can kind of go back and assess what the damage has been. The second part of your response should be, remember I talked about backing up your data? Right. Go in and back up your data. And then if it's really, really heinous, something that's outside of your span of knowledge, make sure you get an IT expert in to come in and take a look at it. And then the second part of that on the recovery, remember that we talked about putting together a disaster recovery plan? Execute your plan. And if you don't have one, look for you can look for free templates online that help you create a disaster plan, and then attend to any breach notification requirements. So I was talking about, Google is great about informing you, hey, these accounts have been breached. You probably need to go back and change your user ID and passcode. And depending on your industry, you might be required, just as a compliance piece, you might have a requirement by law to notify your customers, vendors, or employees that are affected by the security breach. And then last, evaluate existing and new technologies you can use to prevent future breaches.
This is great, Ed. I mean, there's a lot of things that you brought up that I hadn't thought about, because I thought you addressed your computer like your cell phone, but in reality, even though you put some of the same safety issues and safeguard your technology, sometimes they're a little bit different. And you're right, needing to shut off that phone, trying to ever to do that. But audience, if you want to be able to reach Ed, let me tell you, this is how you can contact him. DigitalGenetix is, and his contact information here is
Yep.
edpope@digitalgenetix.com. And here's the thing. Notice that he put his phone number. I've known Ed for a while. And here's the thing. You may not get the immediate answer, but he does make that effort to contact you. Now, there's a couple of questions that came up. Do you recommend a wallet for crypto like Exodus?
Right. And so I'm going to answer all these questions right now. Exodus is awesome. If you go and download Exodus on your phone, it will tell you all of the things that the apps on your phone are telling other people. I use it personally, so absolutely.
Writing it down.
Yeah, use Exodus. You can download it from the Play Store or the App Store. Do I recommend encrypted email? I do. I do recommend encrypted email for higher levels of it. It is a little cumbersome, but depending on the data that you're transmitting, absolutely, you want to do that. I do not have any experience with Trezor or Blue Ledger, so I can't speak to that. And it talks about using the fingerprint required to devices to store your information. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I like the irises. I think the using your eyes is a lot faster sometimes and a lot safer, because sometimes you're driving, right, or you don't have your hands together, so you can look into your phone and it actually unlocks it. So that worked. That now, when you start talking about preferring Apple over Windows or iOS or over Android, I'll say this: Apple does a great job of protecting your data, but they can be penetrated. So I really see them as the same. I think it's more of a personal preference, because you get a lot better business utilities on an Android phone. That being said, Apple is more secure, but it's also a lot more cumbersome as well. So it really depends on what you can live with.
Okay, now I love free resources and all this information that you give me. You said you had something to show us at the end of this presentation.
Yeah.
Give me the money.
All right.
Where is it?
Okay, now these are fantastic resources. And when Maestro and Tree Shaker reached out to me some weeks back and asked me would I do this, I wanted to make sure that the information was relevant and up to date. And so I went in and I provided this because let me say this: cybersecurity it's a work in progress. It's never completed, right? And so these resources keep you up to date on what's going on. And my recommendation to everyone that listens to this is to evaluate your cybersecurity plan on a quarterly, semi-annually, and annual basis. It should be included in your budgeting. It should be included in your employee training. It is that important, because one misstep can shut you down for months. So here we talked about some of the planning. FCC.gov gives you a cyber planner. SCORE is a tremendous resource for it, and a lot of the information that I pulled together in this particular presentation came from SCORE and the Trend Micro Internet Safety for Small Businesses. The National Cybersecurity Alliance, the FCC, the Federal Trade Commission, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, the FBI Field Office Cyber Task Force. They usually keep you up to date on threats domestically. And then the last one, if there's something that's going on and a crime has happened to you, please report it. And they have an Internet Crime Complaint Center that you can reach out to. So definitely use these resources. And if you have anything that doesn't fit what we've put out, reach out to me. What Juanita said is true. I might not be able to get you right then at that moment, but I'm making it a point of emphasis to return every call. So reach out to us, reach me, get the operator, whoever, let them know, say, hey, I was on the Maestro call, and I'll let them know that put the call through to my voicemail, and I will return your telephone call, or we'll return your email.
Ed, wealth of knowledge. my head, it feels like it's this big right now with all the information you gave me.
You're funny.
Now, I want to I want to take the opportunity. Is there anyone else who has another question? Because I know we went through a huge amount of information, and these resources, some of the resources I hadn't even seen. I'm sure my business partner, you know, has, and thank God she does, because she's always on top of it. But some of the things I'm going to become more familiar with. But for those of you who weren't able to attend, you know, the webinar, and those of you who are live on Facebook, if you want to receive these slides and you didn't miss it, because you're also going to be able to get this on a podcast, email the Maestro Center. And the email address is actually going to be in the chat box. And Sabrina's going to put that in there. Make sure everybody's able to email and request this. Take the opportunity to ask right now if you have another question, because I've got him live. This man is on the go all across the United States. He takes the time to speak to small businesses. He takes the time to speak to universities, and he takes the time to talk to his customers individually. You heard it. A major company here locally, you know, calling him at late hours. Can you, you know, go in and just take a look? Develop that relationship with whoever you're doing, you know, your cybersecurity with. Ask the questions. The only wrong question is the question not asked. So take advantage. So any other questions at the time? What's the safest method to send promotional emails to clients and where they will be safe to open?
Okay, now say that again, Juanita. I apologize.
No. It says, what is the safest method to send promotional emails to clients where they will be safe to open?
You know, using an encrypted email is really the safest way to send information. Is not foolproof again, but it does raise the level of security to you and your customer.
And what about that fingerprint requirement for a store device for your information?
Yeah, using biometric authentication is fantastic. As a matter of fact, they're doing that now with door locks. There's a new door lock I was reading on CNET that for your home, in your home, where you can go in and they're using fingerprints, and they're using your cell phone biometrics to open up the door. So yeah, it's awesome. Now the only caveat to all of this stuff is don't lose your cell phone.
Absolutely. That's probably one of the most foolproof, but there's no guarantee that doesn't happen. I personally went to HEB, and you know how I feel about HEB. I was thinking I was all smooth putting in that little center. I left it, loaded my groceries. Thank God I went back, because I found the locator, because my children had the locator on their phone. And sure enough, fortunately, I was able to find it back there. So I definitely did not lose it that day. Look, thank you so much, Ed. Thank you for taking time from your busy schedule.